As a therapist, on this, like a psychological level, I will encourage my clients to be nice to themselves,
Yeah.
not to help themselves, not to hate themselves, in a sense. And what I wonder, and of course, it's the corporal world and the soul level, and I would love to hear more about the distinction. Like, where is the line? Is there a line, or can I sense the line? Like my guess is my intuition is that I'm on the soul level, there needs to be some kind of grounded, good sense of ego that I bring into the spiritual world. But I would love to hear from you about this distinction of self-love between different worlds.
I think it's when you work as a therapist in a soul level, the person in front of you, the only thing that they have, or the only self that they have, is the soul self, is the ego. So they have to work with this. Yeah. So they actually cannot work with it or work into the healing processes if they deny this one can say, this definition of themselves. Yeah? Because denying this part would be actually trying to not to feed that which can give them any ability not to hurt themselves and not to cause harm to others. Okay. But when we move to spirituality or spirituality as it's defined by Kabbalah, and we move into an awakening of point in the heart, the definition of self is completely different. The ego is not yourself. The ego is not the definition of the self. The self is actually eluding you. It's non-existent. Just now, someone actually awakened in you a memory that your ego is not yourself. Even though in many systems of healing, actually you would say as well, the ego is not yourself, so shrink it. Don't use it. But this is not the way when you enter spirituality. Spirituality, you need a very good, healthy ego of Pharaoh in yourself, in order to actually, on top of it, it means as thick Pharaoh is, there is a possibility that you have a chance to actually to gain dominion, because you have a different definition of self. Yourself now is the spirit which is nothing to do with the existence of the ego. And that's the ultimate healing. Otherwise, it's true. You can give a person some sort of well-being, or in which they have the guidelines of at least minimizing the harm they do to themselves and to others. But you cannot offer them a different identity, a different self. So we come to know the self through the structure of Shekhinah. Okay. This is something that knowing the source of all spirits and how they are actually arranged in their relationship, in their source, then we start to draw the power of actually joining it or joining other to it. So this is self-love, is actually love for Shekhinah. So it's outside yourself. If you don't have this kind of love, it means that Shekhinah is an intermediate being that salvage us from ourselves and giving us ourself back, but in what we really are. Okay. So love in that terms is, if you really wish to love something in you, which is the spirit, it is expressed through loving Shekhinah. Otherwise, there is no sense in the word love and in its expression. So it's, I think you should be well versed with the distinction, and this does not say that you should stop helping people, that they are still in the search of their well-being, but you should know the difference. Yeah. So when you encourage them, maybe you'll replace the word love with liking, so it will not cause a contradiction in yourself. So it will flow in. It will flow without contradiction. So yeah, liking oneself, because this is what you were given to work with. Even in your corporal life, try to do the best to cause well-being in you and in others. Spirituality is different arrangement and different contract. Yeah. Okay. So it's not denying the effect of healing on a soul or on the soul and ego. Actually, the ego is a servant of the soul of soul. It's true when we are when we have a disturbance is as well a fight of control. Even the nature of the will to receive is suffering from an over-dominating ego. So there is, yeah, but it's a struggle of one line. There's no option there. Yeah. So the option is well-being. Is move your soul of soul or ego into a position inside an ecology of will to receive to oneself, to a point that it will cause less harm to oneself and to others. It's nothing to do with spirituality. It's to do with causing no harm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Is it clear? Okay. Okay. Okay.
Hello, good afternoon. My question was about what we talked the last time. It was about asking the permission to the Pharaoh. My feeling was, if we ask the permission to the Pharaoh, is it another Pharaoh talking to the same Pharaoh? So is it ego to ego? And if it's the case, that's
oneself,
creating.
In oneself?
Yeah. And if it's the case, how we can deal with it, because I feel there is a kind of conflict with the creating inside of us if we are on this kind of conversation between two pharaohs.
If we look carefully at and reread and study carefully Torah, Pharaoh never appears for himself. The first time Pharaoh appears is with Joseph. I know that in let's say in Western history, or the way the history of Egypt is written, it's not dialectic. There is a kingdom of a very powerful kingdom of ancient time that were dominated by one can say a chain of rulers by the name Pharaoh or Ramses. But as you see, the Torah, it does not appear for itself. It's not the history of Pharaoh or the presence of Pharaoh is never for itself. Only when Joseph arrived to Egypt, or more, even earlier, when Abraham is going down to Egypt, yeah, we meet Pharaoh. What it says then when there is a search, a true search, and a true presence of a point in the heart, meaning that part, a true part of the nature of the higher, of the nature of the creator, of the soul that found a place in a person. Only then Pharaoh becomes meaningful. So when there's never a speech Pharaoh to Pharaoh, Pharaoh even in himself is awakened to ask questions because of the presence of Abraham, or of Joseph, or of Moses. Because otherwise, Pharaoh has not a different question, he doesn't have a question. You see, one of the things that is really I think, revealing to see that why actually Khatumim, you know, the wise people of Egypt cannot solve or cannot actually explain to Pharaoh his dreams. They're very simple. When you look at them, they're very simple. 7 cows that they are fat, 7 cows that they are thin and hungry. A child can solve it. Okay. Why they cannot? Why actually they cannot? Because they cannot perceive that actually Pharaoh is not the ruler of nature. They cannot see that something under the rule of Pharaoh is not in his hand, is not in his control. This is why they cannot actually see the meaning of it. It's not in their perception, meaning, and this is why Pharaoh himself, who was a very wise person and actually very honest intellectually. Okay, why it cannot be answered? Because the ego cannot see any other rulers than Pharaoh in himself. Only when there is another option, there is a choice. This is in ourselves. So if Pharaoh is actually arguing with himself in you, it does not argue about actually his dominion or his importance, or is arguing what would be better to suit his ruling. It's a different, yeah. A true dialogue is open when there is a presence of something else, a different choice, a different option, which means that everything that I thought, this is what we do in surrender. We're actually choosing whether it's us who are responsible for our presence in front of the gate of the lesson, or is there something else? Now we're talking not with Pharaoh to Pharaoh, what is best for me, or what is worthwhile for me, what can I gain from it? But there is a totally different option on the table. Now what you choose. Yeah? Okay, this is clear. Okay. Okay. So you always need to remember Pharaoh's dream. It's impossible to resolve anything inside for all humanity. It's not possible to for truly heal, deep healing, or to resolve, to redeem from the speech or the inner, one can say, inner struggle of Pharaoh. It always needs to be with a different option. Otherwise, we are stuck without choice. Okay.